the NFL is back. We're excited. College football is back, and that's going to lead me into our next category, guys, is you got these two coaches that kind of have in the past, and one still does rule just everything in their universe. Nick Saban in college at Alabama and Bill Belichick for what he's done in Tampa or in New England for the last 2 decades. You know, it's fascinating because the narrative is these two guys are so similar, right? They have similar styles. They're no nonsense. They're grinders. They're lifers. Their fathers, you know, raised them a certain way that got them where they are right now. They're tough. They're evolvers. And they're champions. And I'm going to tell you this. I think right now it is so separated between the two. I think Bill Belichick has more to prove this year than anybody in the NFL. It sounds crazy, but I really believe his entire legacy depends on what happens in the next 17 games for one simple reason. And it's so obvious, but you just cannot get past the fact he has not been successful without Tom Brady. And not only has he not been successful, he's been horrible. If he kept up that winning percentage that he's had without Tom Brady, he would be fired. He would be out of the league. He'd be back to being a defensive coordinator. So he's got so much to prove, to the fact that I think that he has his entire legacy, 20 plus years coaching in the NFL, one of the all-time winningest coaches ever in the sport. But really, show me you can do it for one season, just one season without Tom Brady. Then I might start believing. But I don't know, Phil, am I being too harsh to say that his whole legacy depends on it?
I think 7-9 isn't, it's not horrendous where we're asking for his walking papers. You know, you do lose some impactful players, right? And look, we're talking about Super Bowls. We're not talking about BCS championships. We're not talking about SEC championships. Saban's got 4-4, right? SECs and BCSs, which is dope. Shout out to all the guys in LSU. You know, my cousin Trendon Holiday played there. Go.
You say just beat LSU? Keep that in mind.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, that to me, Super Bowls matter, period. We just talked about how difficult it is.
Yeah.
How hard is it if we're talking about Bama repeating? We say, they could easily do it.
Yeah.
But to say that, the Patriots can do it or the Buccaneers can do it, it takes a lot. And we're talking about recruiting, kids. Kids are going to say, well, I'm going to go to Bama because, they have all the resources. We're talking about college.
Yeah.
The pro is a lot different personalities. You have a lot of the money. And who really wants to play in New England?
Yeah.
There's a lot with that.
It's Boston. Players will go where you can win. And I think they'll put aside almost anything else. The weather might be great in Jacksonville, but no one's running there.
I think it's so impressive that, anyone that has a Super Bowl ring, what's funny? They don't lose those. Yeah. There's been some players that may have sold them because they lost their money. But ask a player, where's the Super Bowl ring? They're doing this. They're not doing that with the BCS stuff. They would trade I would trade a BCS for 4 BCS championships for 1 Super Bowl, period.
Or the college football championship is what it is right now. But you know what? Still, college football is huge. He's at the top of the mountain, and he's the only person you can say has a legitimate chance to repeat as champion every single year. We make it sound like it's easy, but it's not, to do what Nick Saban has done. And he's done it because he's not afraid to change his ways and evolve. And look, he just plugs in different quarterbacks, and they're all great. Tua, Mac Jones, now Bryce Young. And what's really ironic, Paul, is the fact that Bill Belichick, in my opinion, who has his entire legacy on the line this year, is going to depend on a former Alabama quarterback who was great last year at Alabama, but his replacement is great, and the 2 or 3 guys before him were great. So there's a system there that quarterbacks can fit into. And if I'm Bill Belichick and my legacy depends on this coming season and it's a rookie quarterback, I need more than the fact that he's an alum of Alabama. I feel really strongly about the fact he's got a lot to prove as a head coach.
Well, and here's the other side of that, right? You mentioned quarterbacks from Alabama. They don't have a great track record in the NFL. There's not one off the top of my head where I'm like, oh man, they're not quarterback you, even though they've gotten several guys drafted, but they're not necessarily translating. Unlike, say, the defensive players and obviously the receivers, they definitely create receivers out of there. But I don't think Bill Belichick has to worry about his legacy because at the end of the day, you're also comparing him to other people in the same breath, right? Like you talk about Bill Walsh, you talk about George Halas, or all those guys pretty much had the one quarterback that they won the Super Bowl with. Bill Walsh didn't win any other Super Bowls.
I think he only had.
Bill Walsh only had 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Super Bowls.
but
I'm thinking
won it with Steve Young.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
Right.
as far as like when we talk about bad seasons,
Yeah.
it's been what, like they were 7-9 last year, right?
Yeah.
Were they 7-9?
I believe
Look,
so.
Dave, could you look it up? Look up the Patriots record
believe-
from
I
last
believe
year. I don't
so.
think they were that. I don't think they were 7. Well, you might be right, but don't forget he coached at Cleveland for 5 years.
They
Yes.
drafted in the middle.
But my
they
point
drafted at
is
15.
my point is how many losing seasons in 20 years
Yeah.
has Bill Belichick had?
But there's the asterisk. It's because Tom Brady played there, and you mentioned George Hallis. You
But
mentioned
20
Bill Walsh.
years.
Yeah, but those guys were smart enough not to try to coach without Joe Montana or whoever it might be. I mean, they knew.
Patriots
Yeah.
won 7-9 last year.
Okay, 7-9 in,
Great
in,
job,
in,
Phil.
the, in the strange season. Look, I think it's bugging the crap out of Belichick. That
Oh,
Brady
that's
won
I
without him.
agree with you 100%.
That's a
I mean,
different
look, when you're a champion and you've experienced that, and you didn't for a while, which the New England Patriots, they did have a slump,
Yeah.
right? A so-called slump. And then they got back up there. Everything, it's championship or nothing. And that's why he kind of uses, like in business, like let's say a Netflix, like a Reed Hastings. It's like, oh yeah, we'll use you and then we'll trade you.
Yeah.
We'll use you and then we'll get rid of you. Like, sorry. I mean, Cam Newton, hey, sorry, man.
Richard Seymour.
Yeah,
traded
there's a
Richard
lot
Seymour
of
in his
guys that we
prime.
would say, why would you do that? But he's looking at it from a different lens. And
Yeah.
I am no guru when it comes to football, but the results matter.
Yeah.
And I am hoping that he does well, obviously. And I do agree with you now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, legacies do matter. And this is an opportunity for him to have those naysayers because, look, these guys have formed this team not to go 7-9 again. They're used to 11 or 12. I mean, look, they've got how many 12-win seasons? I mean, a lot. So they've got to put up some numbers this year for sure.
I think he's got to win 10. I think he has to win 10.
That's the number?
Yeah, but they're playing 17, remember. So if he goes 10-7 this year.
Let me get some clarification, and maybe I'm helping the audience out here because maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. But are you saying that if Belichick, let's just say the rest of his career, right? He's not a young man. Let's just say he plays 5 years. He does not
Coaches
have
5 years.
Coaches 5 more years, right? He does not have one other winning season. Are you saying he now is no longer the greatest coach of all time? And then who, if so, then who now becomes the best coach?
Okay. I am 100% saying if he doesn't win this year, he's not the greatest coach of all time. And I will argue anybody forever on that.
Then who is, though?
Then it's a hodgepodge. Then you have a mix of guys from Chuck Noll to Bill Walsh to Vince Lombardi to George Hallis to hell.
But he's
I'll
won
go-
6 Super Bowls. over
Listen,
those
I'll go
guys.
so far as to say he's not even the best current coach if he doesn't win big this year. Look, I'm not asking so much. You want to be regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, have one winning season without Tom Brady.
He did.
Do that.
He won the 11-5 with Matt Cassel as the quarterback.
Yeah, okay. but-
He's on the
and it-
100th anniversary team, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's
and
some
the
good
other thing,
stats
by the way,
with
I'm
this.
not even like the hugest Bill Belichick fan.
Yeah.
But what I admire most about Bill Belichick too is he's also done it in a couple different eras, and like with the way the salary cap and team construction is such a big part of it. To the point Phil was making earlier, you know, trading some of these guys that are still in their prime, Richard Seymour, getting first-round draft picks, then reloading. He got Randy Moss on the cheap. That panned out pretty well. Who else did he trade? Chandler Jones he traded early. I'm trying to think who else.
I mean, there's someone every freaking year. And it is,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, just as a fan of sports, that becomes very annoying.
It does.
You know, and with you doing the fantasy stuff, which I don't. I mean, that has to be annoying.
You don't want any running back on the.
I
on his-
want nothing to
Yeah.
do with it. But, overall, I am with you. He does have to produce and at least get past the first round. I mean, there has to be something where we could say, you know what, they were extremely competitive. And if not, yeah, I mean, there could be, I wouldn't say he'd get fired or anything like that, but I definitely. He's going to catch hell.
And
He's
I'm
going
not-
to catch hell.
And I think only for himself, because he'll always have the wins and he'll always have the rings.
Right.
Those will never go away. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He already is, one of the greatest of all time. But, man, it's teed up right there for him with 6 Super Bowl titles to be the greatest of all time with no one arguing it.
How does he do it?
You take a young quarterback like Mac Jones,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to have a better roster this year because he had 3 or 4 guys opt out last year during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Some of his better defenders.
I think they're more than that. They had like 7 or 8.
Yeah, but I mean, some 3 or 4 of their better players.
better guys. Yeah.
So they're automatically going to be good. But that conference, Buffalo, the Jets are going to be better. I'm not saying they're capable of beating the Patriots, but the Dolphins are a better team on
Dolphins
paper.
are solid, yeah.
Than the Patriots are. So I think he's just got to erase the doubt. I'll even take away the numbers. Just eliminate the doubt from people like me that say that you just have to do it once. And Brady went away for 1 year and he wins it all.
Yeah.
You can't do any better than that. So there's no argument about where he stands. Hey, thanks so much for checking out that short clip from Sports Now with Tom Zenner. If you want to see another short clip, click right here. Or if you want to see the entire episode, click right here. Thanks for watching, everybody.